Alright, welcome to another War of Rights map briefing. This one we're going to do the Otto and Sherrick farm. It's interesting, a number of nuances that they can kind of pack into a very small area. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We're sitting out in the attacker's spawn. I'll mention a little bit about attacker arty. As far as artillery goes on this map, numerically the two sides have the same number of guns. The Union have the advantage of having all their guns in one place. The CSA, it's one battery. It's broken up into two positions, and so the first position is the one up here. You can see that these are both rifled guns, and actually both look like parrots from the backside. And then the two smoothbore Napoleons are over here, and they get one officer to split between the two positions. So there's that. The main Union pushes. On this one, the Union can push right. I mean, it's all almost a center push, but there is this kind of right side area. And so the defining feature on the right side is a stone wall along the high ground. Also, if you're familiar with other maps, right? So that's the barn. If you know Burnside Bridge, that is kind of the far left of that map. And now we're on to Otto and Sherrick. So a stone wall overlooking the high ground, overlooking much of the point of contention is not a bad thing at all. So frequently the Union might try to build in here, see if the CSA is going to sit in less good cover and probably at lower elevation down there, and shoot them up if they can. But there is a lot of concealment between the two sides that can obscure that shooting, and then it's just a run downhill. We'll see it more if we get down to kind of man-sized height. It's a run downhill to point. The point of contention itself is in and around this tree in the road. And again, if you hit T, it says capturing, it says defending, then you know you are in it. On the right side, it's I mean far right, it's pretty open, and the CSA can tuck themselves into rocks that are here. Up behind this bush up here, we have this rock outcropping as well, and then there are some rocks here. But cover is pretty sparse. There is the fence that'll give you some soft cover, and the CSA, if they don't like that trade, they can always pull up here into the backyard. The Union can attack. Sorry, the Union can attack on this map. Yeah, the Union can wrap pretty far around. I mean, given the size of the map, they can get up here. They can get into the backyard there, and again, for the size of the map, you are wrapping all the way around the point of contention. So that's the right side push. The left side push coming out of Union spawn. I know this is really high-tech stuff. It's frequently a push down the road or on some side of the fence to try to not eat a volley. Frequently you'll see the Union go through these areas here because they're going to give them concealment. There are these rocks here that the Union can frequently park themselves on. It's kind of one of the last islands of decent cover and concealment before they're going to make a push. But if they want to come up here and skirmish, they can. The CSA have their own concealment and a little bit of cover clusters. Why am I not seeing the rocks that there we go. Now I'm seeing the rocks that I'm supposed to see here. There's rocks there. There's rocks there. Remember, the artillery is up there. But the Union can push through here relatively quickly, probably not eating more than a volley, and then they can stop and they can shoot. They can wrap around that house, and that's the same backyard we just saw from the other side. So it's a pretty limited playing area. All right, what the CSA does to defend, and a lot of these buildings are going to be garrisonable. So this house right here is garrisonable. We can fly through it now. There are windows to shoot out of, all that other stuff. There's also the basement down there. I think that meta has largely, storming the basement has largely gone away. You can go in here, you can go in here. As a CSA, you can also go in this barn up here. You can open the doors, you can shoot out of both floors. Particularly from the top, if the Union come up close, it's a pretty good position where the Union aren't going to want to pursue you too far. But most of the time, shooting from the top level of that barn does not have very good sights on enemies that are too close. But I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention that the Union can garrison, and frequently does garrison, this house up here and then shoot out the windows. And it feels like this one is pretty well advantaged to the attackers as well, because it covers the point well, and a lot of those areas are open with the exception of the fences. As is usually the case, right, the Union is going to look to force the defenders to kind of disperse and then defeat them in detail if the Union can concentrate. If the Union divides itself and tries to push the right and the left, the CSA defenders know what's up. Because the distances are fairly small between the two flanks, they can rapidly concentrate against one and then concentrate against the other. And so the Union and attackers in general are probably well advised to more or less stick together in a way that they can support one another so that they cannot be defeated in detail. And because the Union can push so far back and wrap around the point of contention, the CSA can full-on pull back. I mean, if they really want to, they can get behind this building or this barn right here, and they're not gonna have any problem. They can get in the corner over here. You can, by the way, if you really want to, and I don't advise you to skirmish out of line or anything like that, you can actually hang out in this tree line as the CSA. But if the CSA wants to force the Union to cap early, they can. But otherwise, and particularly in pub matches where that can be difficult to coordinate and enforce, the Union can usually bring a fight, and it's a matter of whether the CSA can shoot them back and beat them back in melee. A losing trade overall is if the CSA parks themselves, this is over on the CSA left and the Union right, is if they let the Union have that stone wall and they shoot at the Union who are in hard cover while they themselves are largely in soft cover. Even if you're just taking each of the vertical posts there and you're spacing yourself out like that, that might be a losing ticket trade over the long term. Union artillery, we've already talked a little bit about artillery. It has, if the Union gunners know what they're doing and they know how to get their peaks, there's not much back here that they can't hit. Frequently the CSA, early on when they're looking to see where the Union's going to go, they're going to park themselves behind these two buildings here. They also frequently park themselves behind this brick house because the artillery it doesn't penetrate through the house. But good Union artillerists will know how to drop shots on either side of the building. They can drop shots between these buildings or just next to them. You airburst them, and you're still going to kill a lot of the people who are here, knock them down, suppress them, and all the rest. So it's cover from small arms fire, but good Union artillery will really make up their value. Good CSA artillery, if they want to try to do their side a favor, they can try to shoot down and break up parts of that stone wall. It's a tall order, especially if the Union is going to counterbat them, and that counterbat is effective, because it may not feel like you're not getting that many tickets, but you're trying to make some sort of investment in weakening the Union's position. I don't usually think it's worth it as CSA already to do that, but some folks do. So if the Union is parked up on the stone wall, frequently the CSA counterplay is to hang back here, force the Union arty to hit their shots. If they do, they can always disperse into concealment. They can always pull back further. They can use the rocks that are over here. They can try to use the side of this hill as cover as well. So the CSA can pull back, and then it forces the Union to decide, do they want to cap early and then potentially lose during the recap and give up what might be by that point a significant tickets advantage, or whether they want to try to test their luck in the open ground over here and hope that they don't get baited into an overextension and get overwhelmed and get knocked down. Look, the point of contention is not far from either side's spawn. Attackers and defenders too should always have their flags. If the Union loses them, and it's still pretty early in the game, it's not the end of the world. But certainly when you're getting close to final push, last stand, the Union wants to make sure that those flags are important, right? Flags kind of alternate in value between attackers and defenders as they approach the final stage, because they become useless for the defenders when they're in last stand, but they're vitally important for attackers who need to get every man they can on point as soon as possible. The push over here on the attacking or the Union left, the CSA right, it always seems like a sideshow. It never seems to really matter all that much. I mean, certainly the positions aren't bad, but it always feels like where do you go from here? Once you get up on these fences, the CSA will usually park back. They have several layers of fences they can use. They can use the house itself they can shoot from. The Union can go through there if they want to try to test that, but because the server sizes are quite large, when you have a pretty full server and the CSA are spawning pretty much at that white shack, if they're not spawning on flag, it's going to be really hard to win those attrition fights. And so frequently the Union will make these pushes if they think that there's an isolated group of Confederates, or they'll make these pushes so that they can kill a lot of skirmishing and out of line artillery folks over here. Because it's pub, you're going to get a lot of folks who just they don't care if they die out of line on artillery 10 times in a match. They really want to shoot that gun, and so they know that, and the map is drawn up so that they can do that. And so it's not terrible. Obviously it puts them very close to the point of contention. One of the things I'm trying to talk more about in these videos are the points that support the defense of a point of contention. And on this map, it can be either of the two houses, right? The red brick one or the Union one. But this set of fences up here, once you get in here, you can certainly force, I'm thinking if you're the Union, you force the CSA to come to you. They got to come through a lot of open ground if you're going to cap. And for the Union themselves, if they're just going to come straight down, get on cap, play cap, recap, you know the CSA, they're probably going to want to come down on your right, because there is concealment, right? You can come out the backyard. There's the concealment of those bushes. You put the flags in the back so they're not visible until late, and then you use the angle of the hill so that the Union only has a few seconds to react, and if they don't, the CSA can end up on their flanks. They do have CSA has 1842s, and so buck and ball at this range in this open area here is kind of its ideal place. So the Union has to be aware of that. They can hold folks back in the bushes. The stone wall might be a bit too far, but you do want to have some folks who are thinking about that, or just have your lines rotate to meet that as it comes. If the CSA tries to shoot it out from that white fence, they're probably not going to kill the Union off fast enough if all the Union are here with their flags in formation, and the Union's going to get the cap if they want it. And then they get to pull back, and the CSA have to decide how they're going to come out here and try to take this. CSA arty, right, the smoothbores back at that barn. For whatever reason, they never seem to have as much effect as I think they should. They do have peaks onto the point here, and if they don't have friendlies on that point, they should be able to you would think that they would have a pretty good deal of effect, but for whatever reason it just doesn't seem like they do. But all right, that's it for this map. It's a small map. Again, there are a lot of those interesting things with buildings and terrain features, but yeah, that's Otto and Sherrick.